gentlemen, today is a very special day, and I wanted to do something epic, put up in a helicopter, land on top of a train, get on.
24 years old, $5 million, second Bugatti. And the story behind how Alex Gonzalez got here, how a kid who was making minimum wage at Dunkin' Donuts in 2018 ended up buying his second $5 million Bugatti before his 25th birthday, is the most shocking rags to riches story in the entire automotive influencer world. Not because of the money, not because of the cars, because of the specific, precise, completely documented sequence of decisions and disasters and recoveries and escalations that connects a teenage boy serving donuts for $158 a week to a man standing in front of second Bugatti in Miami telling the camera that owning a Bugatti at 24 just did not feel right until he put it through the drift test. And let us say it definitely passed. This is the full FX Alex G story. And it changes how you see everything that happened with the Bugatti Chiron and Matt Armstrong and the most watched automotive drama in YouTube history. Think about the specific number for a moment. $158 a week. That was Alex Gonzalez's income at Dunkin' Donuts in 2018. Not in a difficult period. Not in a temporary situation. He was passing through on his way to something he already knew was coming. That was his reality. 18 years old, working minimum wage at a donut chain in Miami, surrounded by the specific visual evidence of a level of wealth and lifestyle that his paycheck gave him absolutely no access to. And then he found Forex trading. Not easily, not immediately, not with the kind of instant success story that the promotional materials for trading courses always promise. He tried stocks and failed. He tried dropshipping and failed. He tried rental arbitrage and failed. He lost money and he lost time, and he went back to the Dunkin' Donuts counter, and he kept looking for the thing that was going to work. And 2.5 years after he first started trying, after losing $30,000 learning a market that takes no prisoners, Forex started working. And when it worked in a way that changed everything about the trajectory of Alex Gonzalez's life permanently. But here is what nobody outside the trading community fully understood about FX Alex G before the Bugatti crash made him famous in automotive circles. He is not simply a person who made money and bought expensive cars. He is a person who built a system, the set and forget strategy, a specific, documented, teachable approach to Forex trading that he developed through 2.5 years of failure and $30,000 of losses, and a specific kind of knowledge that only comes from being wrong repeatedly in a market that charges for every mistake at the exact moment you make it. Set and forget, place the trade, define the parameters, remove the emotion, let the market do what markets do without the kind of reactive, fear-driven intervention that destroys most retail traders' accounts. It sounds simple. It is not, but Alex Gonzalez made it teachable, built a community around it, created Swing Trading Lab, a Telegram channel with over 172,000 members, and generated $7.5 million in the 3 years between 2022 and 2025 selling the courses that teach the strategy. $7.5 million from a kid who was making $158 a week serving donuts 5 years earlier. And then came the cars, because the cars are not separate from the story. They are part of it. The car collection that FX Alex G built in Miami as his trading income scaled is not a collection assembled by someone who loves cars the way Matt Armstrong loves cars. It is a collection assembled by someone who understands the relationship between visible success and the credibility of the product they are selling. When you are selling a Forex trading course to people who want financial freedom, the visual evidence of what financial freedom looks like matters. The Rolls Royces and the Lamborghinis and the McLarens and the Ferraris and the Maybachs and the Volkswagen Beetle that sits among them like a deliberate joke about the distance between where he came from and where he is. All of them are part of the same story. The story of a kid from Miami who figured something out and wants everyone watching to understand exactly what figuring it out made possible. And at the top of that collection, the undeniable, irrefutable, conversation-stopping proof that the strategy works. The Bugatti, the first one, pink, $45,000 a month. A Dunkin' Donuts flamingo pink Bugatti Chiron that announced FX Alex G to a much larger audience than the trading community had ever given him access to. Now let us talk about the first Bugatti. Because the first Bugatti is where the story that led to the second Bugatti, and ultimately to Matt Armstrong, and the Chiron Persport rebuild, and everything that followed begins. The first Bugatti was pink. Not subtle, not tasteful. Not the kind of pink that hedge fund managers choose when they want to acknowledge their wealth, while maintaining plausible deniability about the ostentatiousness of it. Bright pink. Dunkin' Donuts pink. The specific shade of pink that says, I know exactly what this looks like, and I am doing on purpose. And that car, and the content that came from it, and the audience it reached, and the identity it created for FX Alex G in the broader influencer ecosystem, was a foundation on which the second Bugatti became possible. Not financially. FX Alex G could afford a second Bugatti without the first one. Narratively, the first Bugatti told a story that the second Bugatti could only be the continuation of, and continuations require escalation. And escalation from a pink Bugatti Chiron requires something that makes the pink Chiron look like a warm-up act. The day FX Alex G went to look at McLaren Speedtail is the day the second Bugatti story begins. Because the Speedtail is not a consolation prize. It is a $3 million limited production car with a central driving position and a streamlined body and a hybrid powertrain that produces over 1,000 horsepower and a design so specific and so extraordinary that the 106 people who own one form one of the most exclusive automotive communities on the planet. A McLaren Speedtail is not a car you look at and think this is not good enough. It is a car you look at and think this is extraordinary. Unless you are Alex Gonzalez at 24 years old with a $7.5 million trading course business and a collection that already includes multiple Lamborghinis and McLarens and Rolls Royces, and you arrive to compare it with a second Bugatti, because compared with second Bugatti, in the specific context of the story that FX Alex G is telling with his collection, the Speedtail did not win. And the decision made on the day that started with a Speedtail test drive and ended with a second Bugatti purchase is a decision that sets up every subsequent chapter in the most extraordinary automotive influencer story on YouTube. But here is the detail about the second Bugatti that changes the entire picture of Zalek's relationship with these cars. The second Bugatti is not the same as the first, not in specification, not in character, not in what it represents within the collection. The first Bugatti was a statement. Pink, loud, impossible to ignore, designed to be the visual punchline of a rags to riches story told at maximum volume. The second Bugatti is something different. Something that Alex Gonzalez himself described in terms that suggest a different relationship with the car and a different understanding of what he wanted from it. A day that started with one idea and ended with another gem in the garage. Not a statement. A gem. The language of someone who has moved from buying cars for what they represent to buying cars for what they are. And that shift from the pink Chiron as symbol to the second Bugatti as gem tells you something important about where FX Alex G was in his relationship with automotive excellence at the moment the second purchase happened. He was starting to love the cars for the cars rather than for what they said about him. And that shift, subtle but real, is the shift that eventually led to a decision that defined everything that came after it. Now let us talk about what happened between the second Bugatti purchase and the crash that changed everything. Because the Chiron Persport, one of only 60 ever produced, the track-focused $4 million limited edition hypercar that became the most famous crash car in automotive YouTube history, had a controversial life before the crash that ended it. Alex Gonzalez stood on the carbon fiber rear wing, damaged a component worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, got the backlash that decision deserved, but also got the views, the engagement, the specific kind of automotive community reaction that comes from watching someone do something with a $4 million car that the automotive community considers sacrilegious. And in that sacrilege, in that specific violation of the respectful distance that most supercar owners maintain between themselves and their cars, FX Alex G was doing something that was entirely consistent with who he had always been. He was using the car as content. As the most expensive and the most extreme and the most attention-generating piece of content he had ever produced. And the crash, when it came, was the ultimate escalation of that content strategy. Not intentional, but consistent. And the aftermath of the crash, the insurance payout and the salvage auction, and the decision to buy the car back and bring in Matt Armstrong and document every second of the rebuild publicly, is the most consequential content decision FX Alex G ever made. Not for the views the decision generated, but for the story it started that is not finished yet. The $36,000 battery replacement that the second Bugatti needed is the detail that most people miss in the coverage of Zalex's collection. Because alongside the now destroyed Chiron, he owns another Bugatti that was recently in the news for needing a $36,000 battery replacement. $36,000 for a battery in a car he already owns. The specific number that tells you everything about the cost of Bugatti ownership that the brochure does not cover. And the parallel between the $36,000 battery replacement on the second Bugatti and the 18,000-pound battery replacement that Matt Armstrong had to make on the Chiron per sport rebuild is not coincidental. It is the same problem. The same specific category of enormous, unexpected manufacturer control cost that defines the experience of owning a Bugatti outside protection of a warranty. The battery problem that FX Alex G faced on his second Bugatti is the battery problem that Matt Armstrong faced on the rebuild, and both of them paid for it, without any help from Bugatti. The CoffeeZilla investigation is a dimension of Zalex's story that the automotive coverage consistently ignores, but that anyone trying to understand the full picture of who he is needs to know about. Because in August 2025, a YouTube channel called CoffeeZilla, known for investigating financial influencers and trading course promoters, produced a video about FX Alex G, a video in which Alex Gonzalez revealed that he had made approximately $7.5 million in the past 3 years selling his courses, and a video that raised questions about the specific claims made in the promotion of those courses and the specific proportion of students who achieved the results the promotional materials suggested were achievable.